Hello everyone! Welcome to Untold History, where we discover the story you won't find in books. This is a space dedicated to exploring the most intriguing and often forgotten corners of world history. Here we not only narrate the events, but we delve into them, unraveling the details that have been relegated to oblivion. Today, we have a truly special episode for you. Let's dive into the Arauco War, a protracted and complex conflict that took place in what is now Chile. From the first confrontation between the Spanish and the Mapuche in the 16th century to the end of the war in 1818, we will explore how this conflict not only shaped the history of the region but also indigenous resistance to colonization. Get ready for a fascinating journey into the heart of one of the longest and most significant conflicts in history. Let's begin our journey towards the Arauco War. In the 16th century, the Spaniards, under the command of Pedro de Valdivia, began the conquest of the Mapuche territory, in the south of what we know today as Chile. However, the Mapuche, led by legendary figures such as Lautaro and Capalacan, offered a fierce and tenacious resistance that lasted for almost 300 years. This conflict was not simply a series of battles, but an ongoing struggle for identity, freedom, and autonomy in the face of a colonizing force seeking to impose its cultural and territorial dominance. The Arauco War officially began in 1536 with the first violent contact between the Spanish and the Mapuche. The Mapuche, who had developed a solid social and military organization, resolutely resisted the Spanish incursions. Despite the initial victories of the Spaniards, such as the founding of the city of Santiago, the Mapuche resistance was constant and effective. The Mapuche not only resisted but also adapted their guerrilla and ambush tactics, taking advantage of their in-depth knowledge of the terrain and their ability to mobilize quickly. This tactical approach allowed them to maintain active resistance for centuries, making the conflict one of the longest in world history. During the 17th century, the war continued with ups and downs. The Spaniards established fortifications and cities in Mapuche territory, but faced constant attacks and ambushes. The struggle for control of the region intensified due to the innovative military strategies of the Mapuche, who adapted guerrilla tactics and used their knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. This period was marked by a series of bloody clashes and the construction of a line of defensive forts by the Spaniards, who attempted to contain Mapuche resistance but with limited success. One of the decisive moments of the war was the participation of Mapuche figures such as Lautaro, who led a series of successful campaigns against the Spanish. Lautaro, a young Mapuche warrior who had been held captive by the Spanish, became one of the most important leaders of the resistance. Under his leadership, the Mapuche inflicted several significant defeats on the Spanish, including the famous Battle of Tucapel in 1553. Lautaro proved to be a brilliant strategist, using his knowledge of Spanish military tactics against them, thus managing to turn the tide of the war in favor of the Mapuche on multiple occasions. The Arauco War was also marked by a series of alliances and betrayals. The Spanish tried to divide the Mapuche tribes through promises of alliances and agreements, but the Mapuche, led by Capalacan, remained united in their fight against colonization. Capalacan, another prominent leader, was instrumental in the resistance, and his capture and execution by the Spanish became a symbol of Mapuche resistance. The story of Capalacan inspired generations of Mapuche to continue the struggle for their land and their freedom, becoming a symbol of indigenous resistance. In the 18th century, the war became a protracted and costly conflict for both sides. The Spanish, exhausted by the costs of the war and the persistent resistance of the Mapuche, began negotiating with the Mapuche leaders in an attempt to reach a lasting peace. However, negotiations were difficult and hostilities continued. The Mapuche resistance remained firm, and each truce was followed by new clashes. The Mapuche demonstrated an incredible capacity for resilience and adaptability, continuing the struggle generation after generation without giving in to external pressures. Conflict extended into the 19th century, and it was only with Chile's independence in 1818 that a final agreement was reached. The war officially ended when Chilean independence forces, under the leadership of Bernardo O'Higgins, managed to establish definitive control over Mapuche territory. However, the impact of the war left a deep mark on the history of Chile and on the relationship between the Spanish and the Mapuche. The Mapuche resistance became a symbol of the struggle for self-determination and the defense of cultural identity, a legacy that endures to this day in Chilean culture. The Arauco War was not only a protracted conflict, but it also had a significant impact on the history and culture of the region. The Mapuche resistance became a symbol of the indigenous struggle against colonization, and the war left a legacy of confrontation and negotiation that shaped the history of Chile. The Mapuche war tactics, diplomatic strategies, and resilience are studied to this day as examples of effective resistance to colonizing forces. The story of the Arauco War is a reminder of the resilience of indigenous peoples and their struggle for survival and autonomy. In addition, the Arauco War shows us how protracted conflicts can have lasting effects on the social and political structure of a region. Mapuche resistance forced colonizers to recognize and negotiate with indigenous peoples, setting precedents for future interactions between colonizers and indigenous people in other parts of the Americas. The stories of heroes like Lautaro and Capalican have been immortalized in Chilean culture, becoming emblematic figures in the struggle for freedom and justice. Their legacies live on in the collective memory and continue to inspire new generations in their struggle for the dignity and rights of their peoples. Thank you for joining us in this deep exploration of the Arauco War. We hope you enjoyed discovering how this protracted conflict affected not only Chile's history, but also indigenous resistance throughout Latin America. Don't forget to leave your comment and share the video if you liked it. Your opinions and thoughts are very valuable to us and help us to continuously improve the content we offer you. If you want to continue discovering more surprising stories, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our videos. We have a huge variety of exciting and intriguing themes that we're sure you'll enjoy. From forgotten conflicts to little-known historical figures, in Untold History you will always find something new and fascinating to learn. Don't miss our next installments, where we will continue to explore the darkest and most fascinating nooks and crannies of world history. See you in the next episode of Untold History. Stay curious, keep exploring, and never stop wondering about the past. History is full of surprises and lessons, and here on our channel we are dedicated to unearthing those hidden gems for you. Until next time.